Golly. This is the kind of stuff I love. This morning we are just burning up a little bank with a new bait from Bass Pro, not brand new, but newer. It's called the Chaos Shad. It's a plopping style bait, and we are just burning up some bank, just waiting on a big bluegill eater to just come up and splash this thing. When it comes to fishing in the fall, it's a puzzle. It's one of those times of the year where you kind of have to be prepared for everything. There's a lot of places in the country that get really tough this time of year. You know, it's not cooled off enough to really be great yet. You know, we're in September right now, and man, a lot of times the name of the game this time of year is just covering water. So that's what we're doing this morning, just burning up some water until we can reel this thing over one's head and see what happens when we do. You know, the fish that we're really trying to target are up on the bank, and they're shallow. They're up here eating bluegill, they're up here eating gizzard shad, and just kind of whatever else swims by. But for the most part, in my mind, I'm chasing bluegill eaters. You know, that's why I'm fishing the backs of the docks, shallow around these big boulders and stuff. We've actually got a full moon right now, and it seems like to me that really it brings a lot of fish back to the bank, and in my mind, it's kind of the big start to the transition of the fall. I always like to start shallow. That's I want to try to be ahead of the fish. You know, seems like this time of year the water's cooling off and the fish are kind of moving back to the bank, and I like to fish some, you know, really good flat stuff where you think bluegill might spawn when the moon comes around and stuff like that. And I'll just take off with a topwater. Like today, I'm going to throw a Chaos Shad with just a plopper style bait, and just cover water and try to figure out what kind of bank they're on. So throwing this Chaos Shad, I like to be right on the bank. I like to keep my boat as close to the bank as I need to keep this bait in the strike zone for longer. So that's what it's all about, just keeping that bait, you know, in the strike zone where you think you're going to get bit your entire cast. It kind of ups your odds and makes it a little bit easier to cover water too. I'm always paying attention out in front of me, and like I can see a big rock right there that kind of kicks out and is underneath the water, and that's the kind of stuff that I'm always trying to throw over, because any one of those targets could be the one that's got a big one sitting on it. I keep it pretty simple on colors. I'll throw something a little bluegilly sometimes, or I'll throw a bone or a black. Seems like those three colors really kind of cover all the bases for me. But this is a bait that I'm not fishing slow. I've got the trolling motor on high, and I'm absolutely flying down the bank, just trying to cover enough water in a day to get 5 good bites. You know, that's one of those techniques that I feel like is a good tournament winning technique, and it can get you the right 5 whenever you can get those bites. But when it comes to rod reel line setup, it's pretty simple. I'm throwing a 7.3 bladed jig rod. It's just a medium heavy action, and throwing it on a 50-pound braid with a platinum reel. And a big part of catching them on a plopper and being efficient with a plopper is how fast your reel is. This platinum is an 8.3 to 1, so I'm able to move that plopper faster and move my boat faster and still be able to fish it efficiently and not work my tail off trying to wind it super fast. They don't all go to the bank in the fall. Every now and again, you know, depending on how far along they are, they do live offshore. Oh man, he threw my bait off. I was just about to show you guys a brand new bait from Bass Pro that's coming out that is a fish catcher when it comes to a jig head minnow setup. This is going to be called the Rockin Shad, and as you can tell, it's a good plastic bait. And when it comes to, you know, jig head minnow, I've got this thing right here on a 1/4 ounce new tungsten head from Bass Pro Shops, and I mean, it's as solid of a setup as you can ask for minnow. Yeah, I was just burning up the bank, and I kind of turned out to leave and started seeing a few out here suspended, so I decided to look around for a minute. And it didn't take very long to catch one, so we're going to look around for a minute longer. It seems like to me that changes day to day, sometimes hour to hour. You know, I might catch them off something really super flat, you know, for a little while, then all of a sudden, where'd they go? Start changing it up and looking at new kind of banks, and I might go start fishing some steeper stuff and start getting bit. When it comes to fall fishing, I mean, you got to take every opportunity you come upon, because it changes so much and so quickly that a lot of days you can't decide, hey, I'm gonna catch them on the bank, hey, I'm gonna catch them out in the middle. You kind of just gotta go fishing and feel them out and just do your best to be versatile. This kind of fishing, golly, ate my jig, got my pincher. It's enough to aggravate anybody. But so we're on Table Rock Lake today, but you know what we're doing is something that's going to translate on pretty much any highland reservoir, and some lakes that really aren't highland reservoirs. Generally, as a rule of thumb, fall fishing is tough, no matter where you're at. So it's all about, you know, finding a way to get a bite. And for me, I like to cover as much water as possible and just try to kind of play the numbers game, get it over as many as I can get it over. As you can see, it's all about bait fish this time of year, and that little group right there is getting after them. Now, the bigger ball is the bait fish, and the smaller 3 dots are fish eating it. Yeah, so right now I'm just out here looking around in some bait, scoping a little bit, kind of out towards the main lake, just you know, trying to find some fish that are roaming around eating some bait. Honestly, I'm probably kind of trying to force the later fall bite a little early, but you know, fish are fish. They don't live by a rule book. So when I'm running around out here kind of looking, you know, I'm trying to see, you know, a pair like that or, you know, a group of them, and I'm just taking this minnow and trying to make a good cast to them and just let them see it, you know, and once they see it, then it's all about getting them excited and trying to trick them into biting it. Sometimes it's tough to get them to see your bait, but I find a lot of times in the fall like this, speed is my friend a lot of the time. A lot of times I'm trying to, you know, work the bait pretty quick to kind of just entice them into biting. You know, that jig is an awesome way to get a big one in the boat, and honestly, it gets you a lot of bites. It doesn't seem like, you know, the conditions are always perfect to catch them on a topwater, so anytime that those conditions aren't just perfect, I feel like that's when that jig really, really shines. Big old white bass. But if you like catching fish, you can't beat it because you're gonna catch a little bit of everything, man. I don't care if it's white bass. That's a big old white bass. New Bass Pro Rockin Shad is gonna get you bites. Yeah, so what we're looking at right here, we've got a, you know, at the far end of the screen, you can see a bluff, and you see my minnow, here they come, coming out of this tree. Oh, I missed him, dang it. Try to drop it back down there, see if they'll bite it this time. But nice little group of fish sitting in the tree there. Got him. Just took them getting a little bit competitive to come get it there. It ain't much, but it's just a little Kentucky. But it was kind of funny, kind of got a group of them after it, and then he was kind of in the cheap seats way down in the bottom, and he just got excited, come flying up and grabbed that thing. And last but not least, if you're not catching them on the bank, which we've all been there, some days they're just not up there and they're not biting. That's whenever I get out in the middle, start trying to find those fish that are starting to migrate back towards you know, where they're gonna go to further in the fall, kind of where they move to the fall type areas. And what I mean by that is, you know, those main creek drains, main creeks where all the bait fish are migrating into. Those are the kind of places I start to look, and the bait I pick up when I'm doing that is just a, you know, a jig head minnow. This is just one good example of a way you can catch them in the fall. You know, fish do get out here and roam all year round. So I mean, it's not like it's you know, just something you can do in the winter time or something like that. I mean, there's always some fish out here to be caught, but you know, today we're gonna do our best to catch them doing a few different things. So you know, not only can you minnow them, but we're gonna go ahead to the bank and see if we can catch them doing a few other things. It's not the size or the flavor we were looking for, but it all felt right. Kind of my 1-2 punch when I'm shallow is that plopper style bait, and then it's also a jig. I've always got a jig on the deck in the fall. If I come to a lay down, I'm gonna flip it. If I come to a boat dock, I'm gonna skip that back pad of the boat dock, skip the back corners, and if it's shallow enough, I'll even fish a few stalls out. Right now, I'm retying my poor jig here, because anytime you set the hook behind the cable, the whole line gets a little nasty, so you better just go ahead and chop her off and start over. Everybody's got their own thing, but what we're doing today, you know, it's about shallow today for me. I'm just, you know, trying to target those little high percentage areas. Like right now, I'm only fishing the backs of the docks, fishing the floats and the back corners and the walkways, and just going to the next dock, just kind of trying to hit as much of just the high percentage stuff as we can. What's our deal today? We're dropping them on the carpet. No penalty on that one, but cool thing was that one was actually suspended on the dock. I didn't see him or nothing, but I was winding my jig in and I hit the cross member there that kind of holds the dock all together, and he came up there and grabbed it. You know, the cool thing about a jig is, I mean, there's not a wrong way to fish it. You know, I'm just throwing a little 1/2 ounce little flipping jig and with like a crawl trailer on it, and it resembles everything they want to eat. So you put it in the right spot, whether you're flipping it, reeling it, whatever, you've got a pretty good chance at getting a bite. It's one of my go-to confidence baits. For me, I'm usually a 1/2 or a 3/4 when I'm flipping a jig, because usually I've got a big trailer on it, and that trailer kind of helps you adjust your fall rate. If I want it to fall faster, I'll put something on that doesn't catch as much water. If I want it to go a little slower, I'll put a bigger trailer on. But I do like a compact, heavy jig. Whenever I'm putting it around boat docks, putting it in the, you know, brush around boat docks, or even if you're flipping it in laydowns, I'm a big believer in having that small profile, but a nice quick fall. And when it comes to a rod and reel setup for that jig, like I said, I'm putting it in some nasty places. So I'm throwing this one on a 7.4 heavy, and it's actually called the Dragon rod. It's a Carbonite 2.0, one of the technique specific pulls. And it's got plenty of backbone to get them out of there, but it's also got enough tip that you're not going to break them off when you get them to the dock. A lot of times fishing that nasty cover, you've got to pull them all the way to the top and hold them there and go get them. So you've got to have a little bit of tip to keep from just snapping them off when you get to the cables and stuff. This is a nice little bait. It really sounds good. Runs really true, doesn't roll over. Whenever I'm trying to pick a dock to fish this time of year, this is the kind of stuff I love. It's just like a big stop sign, it's on a point, it's nice and shallow. That's the kind of stuff I want to, you know, hit as many of it as I can. Just want to skip that jig. I start at the bank usually, depends kind of how I come up to the dock, but a lot of times I start on the back float because I feel like a lot of times that's where they're at, and I kind of want to sneak up on them the best I can. I want them to see my jig before they hear it splash a few other times. Yeah, a lot of times I'm not letting it sit in there real long, you know. Seems like if they're in there, a lot of times they'll catch it before it gets to the bottom. If they don't get it before it gets to the bottom, you'll hop it once or twice and they'll have it. So most generally, I don't just fish it back a long ways. It's trying to kind of just, you know, pitch it in there, bounce at a time or two, and, you know, just go on to your next flip. So when it comes to fall fishing, I mean, I really like to keep it simple, you know. The 3 baits you saw me throw today are the 3 baits that I've got on my deck pretty much every time I go fishing in the fall. So, you know, I've got a jig, I got a chaos shad, I got, you know, my minnow, and I feel like with those 3 things, I can figure out any kind of island reservoir. Whether you're fishing boat docks or whether you're fishing it, you know, on the shallow parts of the floats, it's just a great way to get a bite in the fall. You just have to be versatile. That's my whole point with this video, is you can't just, you know, be so dialed in that you won't change. You've got to pay attention to what the fish are telling you, and I think you'll be a lot more successful this fall.